In the northern reaches of the Japanese archipelago, where dense forests once stretched unbroken and ancient coastlines carved the rhythm of early life, a mystery has endured for more than 10,000 years. Scattered across fields, mountains, and forgotten settlements are small clay figures, crude yet hauntingly deliberate, fragile yet impossibly expressive. They are known as Dogū figurines, relics of the Jōmon people, a prehistoric culture whose fingerprints remain etched into Japan's earliest identity. And despite centuries of discovery, analysis, and debate, one question has never truly faded. Why did the Jōmon create them? These figures, molded from clay with exaggerated features, wide hips, swollen torsos, and eyes so large they seem to stare through time itself, are unlike anything produced by other ancient civilizations. More than 15,000 of them have been unearthed so far, an astonishing number for a society that left no written records, no chronicles, no carved tablets to clarify their beliefs. What remains instead are these enigmatic shapes, tokens of a world we can only reconstruct through fragments. For archaeologists, dog figurines are not just art. They are keys, silent witnesses to rituals, fears, hopes, and myths that shaped a people long before recorded history began. And yet the more we study them, the stranger they become. Many depict female bodies with emphasized fertility traits. Others appear almost non-human, adorned with patterns that resemble armor, goggles, or animal markings. Some have broken limbs, snapped torsos, or deliberate cracks that suggest they were intentionally destroyed. Were they shattered as part of a farewell ritual, offered to unseen forces, or symbolically killed after fulfilling their purpose? Each broken piece deepens the mystery. The Jōmon period itself spans an almost unimaginable stretch of time, beginning around 14,000 BCE, an era when humans elsewhere were still transitioning from nomadic life to settled communities. But in Japan, the Jōmon people developed a unique culture defined by pottery, ritual objects, and a deep, almost reverent relationship with nature. They lived as hunter-gatherers, yet crafted some of the world's earliest ceramics. They built simple dwellings, yet practiced complex burial traditions. And across this long expanse of millennia, Dogū figurines appeared, evolved, multiplied, and eventually vanished. Their disappearance is just as puzzling as their origin. Around the end of the Jōmon era, these figurines stop appearing entirely, as if a cultural thread was abruptly cut. No texts explain the shift. No oral histories survived intact to fill in the silence. All we have are the figures themselves, mute but compelling, demanding interpretation. For modern scholars, the dog challenge conventional archaeological logic. They are widespread, but not standardized. They are detailed, but not clearly symbolic. They are plentiful, but their purpose is unclear. Some theories suggest they were fertility idols, protectors of childbirth, or guardians of the household. Others claim they were used in healing rituals, where the figurine's body represented the afflicted person. Breaking it symbolized the removal of illness. Still others argue they served as spiritual intermediaries between the human world and the unseen. Each hypothesis fits, and yet none fully explains the scale, style, and variation of the artifacts. As we journey deeper into this documentary, we'll explore these theories and push beyond them. We'll examine the landscapes where Dogū were found, the craftsmanship that went into each piece, and the cultural forces that shaped their evolution. We'll look at scientific breakthroughs that are offering new insights, from 3D scans to molecular residue analysis. And we'll also confront the more imaginative interpretations, ideas that stretch from mythological symbolism to ancient cosmology. But before we unravel the hypotheses, we must understand the world that gave birth to these clay figures. For the Jōmon people, life was intertwined with forests, animals, weather, and cycles of abundance and scarcity. In such a world, ritual objects weren't luxuries, they were necessities, anchors that helped communities interpret the invisible forces governing their survival. Dogū figurines may have been created not just as representations of life, but as tools to negotiate with it. This story is not simply about ancient artifacts. It is about a society that left behind one of the most perplexing archaeological signatures on Earth. A culture that expressed its worldview not through words, but through clay. And as we trace the fingerprints of artisans long gone, we uncover a deeper truth, that even across thousands of years, human beings have always sought meaning, protection, connection, and wonder. Tonight, we step into the shadows of Japan's prehistoric past. We follow the trail of fragments that survived earthquakes, fires, floods, and time itself. And we begin our search for answers buried within the silent, staring faces of the dog. To understand the dog figurines, we must first step into the world that created them. A world stretching across more than 10 millennia, shaped not by empires or armies, but by forests, coastlines, and the quiet resilience of early human communities. This was the Jōmon period, one of the longest continuous cultural eras in human history, beginning around 14,000 BCE and lasting until approximately 400 BCE. It is a chapter so vast that it predates the pyramids, Stonehenge, Sumerian writing, and most of the world's earliest civilizations. Yet, unlike many ancient cultures, the Jōmon people left behind no written language. Their story is told entirely through the objects they crafted, and perhaps none speak louder than the dog. The term Jōmon itself refers to the cord-marked patterns found on their pottery, created by pressing knotted ropes into wet clay. These intricate patterns became a defining characteristic of their material culture, signaling not only creativity, but a profound relationship with their environment. Across Japan, the Jōmon lived in small, scattered communities, surrounded by dense woodlands, lakes, and rivers that provided an abundant supply of nuts, seeds, fish, and game. Unlike many prehistoric societies that transitioned rapidly into farming, the Jōmon developed a remarkably stable hunter-gatherer lifestyle, supplemented by limited cultivation of plants such as millet and beans. Their survival depended on seasonal rhythms, collective knowledge, and social cooperation. What makes the Jōmon particularly fascinating to archaeologists is that despite their reliance on foraging, they developed some of the world's earliest and most sophisticated ceramic traditions. Long before the rise of agriculture or complex urban centers, they were shaping clay into both functional vessels and ceremonial artifacts. This suggests that pottery was not merely utilitarian. It was deeply embedded in ritual and cultural identity. And within this ceramic universe, the Dogū figurines emerged as one of the most striking expressions of their creativity. But to understand why the Jōmon might have invested so much time and symbolic meaning into clay figures, we must examine how they lived. Most Jōmon communities consisted of small clusters of pit dwellings arranged around a central open space. These homes were partially dug into the earth, with wooden frames and thatched roofs that blended naturally with the surrounding forest. Excavations show that many settlements were occupied for centuries, sometimes even millennia, indicating a remarkable degree of stability for a non-agricultural society. Within these settlements, daily life was intimately tied to nature. The Jōmon people depended on fishing in rivers, and along the coast. They hunted deer, boar, and smaller mammals. They gathered acorns, chestnuts, and seeds, which they processed and stored in underground pits. Over time, certain regions developed more permanent villages, supported by abundant natural resources like chestnut forests, maintained through deliberate cultivation and burning practices. This close, nearly spiritual relationship with nature influenced their art, their rituals, and perhaps even the symbolic meaning embedded within the Dogū. Because the Jōmon left no written records, archaeologists rely heavily on the material remains of their culture to interpret how they lived and what they believed. Burial sites reveal that individuals were often interred with ornaments, tools, and sometimes elaborate clay objects, suggesting beliefs in an afterlife or symbolic continuity between life and death. Shell middens, massive heaps of discarded shells, offer insights into diet and social organization. Pottery styles allow experts to trace migratory patterns, trade networks, and interactions between regional groups. But among these archaeological clues, Dogū figurines remain one of the most puzzling components. They appear across nearly all regions of Japan, from Hokkaido in the north to Kyushu in the south. Yet there is no uniformity in their size, shape, or design. Some are small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. Others stand more than 30 centimeters tall. Some resemble pregnant women with swollen abdomens, while others have elongated limbs, animal-like faces, or geometric patterns that defy simple interpretation. This diversity suggests they were not mass-produced or standardized. Instead, each figure may have been crafted for a specific ritual purpose or guided by regional traditions. Their cultural significance becomes even more intriguing when placed within the broader context of Jōmon's spirituality. Evidence from ritual sites indicates that the Jōmon held animistic beliefs, worldviews in which natural elements, animals, and objects possess spiritual essence. Trees, stones, and landscapes may have been seen as living entities capable of influence, protection, or harm. In such a worldview, Dogū could have served as intermediaries between humans and the unseen forces governing their world. The absence of writing forces modern researchers to be cautious. Without texts, myths, or recorded ceremonies, interpretations of Dogū remain hypotheses. But one thing is clear: these figures were not toys, ornaments, or casual decorations. Many were found deliberately arranged within dwellings, buried in pits, or placed in communal areas. Others were discovered in fragments, suggesting ritual breakage, a symbolic act found in many ancient cultures, often associated with releasing spiritual power or concluding a ceremonial function. Understanding the Jōmon context also requires recognizing the era's vast timeline. Over more than 10 millennia, the Jōmon culture evolved significantly. Environmental changes, population shifts, and regional developments all contributed to new artistic expressions and ritual practices. Early Jōmon Dogū were simple, abstract shapes. Middle and late Jōmon examples became more elaborate, with distinct styles emerging in different regions. The most iconic forms, such as the goggle-eyed shakoki dog, appear toward the end of the period, suggesting a peak in symbolic complexity shortly before the tradition vanished entirely. What drove this evolution? Some theories point to environmental pressures, including cooling climates and declining food resources that pushed communities to rely more heavily on ritual for protection or prosperity. Others argue that growing social complexity required new forms of symbolic expression. Whatever the cause, Dogū figurines reflect a deepening cultural dialogue between the Jōmon people and the world they inhabited. As we move deeper into this documentary, we will investigate these artistic transformations and examine the motivations that might have shaped them. The Jōmon period is not simply a time frame, it is the cultural soil from which the dog emerged. And within its forests, communities, and rituals, we may find the first clues that illuminate why these enigmatic clay figures were created and why they continue to captivate us thousands of years later. When we move from the broad landscape of the Jōmon world to the intimate details of Dogū craftsmanship, a new layer of mystery unfolds, one shaped not by the passage of time, but by the deliberate choices of ancient artists. The Dogū figurines are more than archaeological artifacts. They are windows into a symbolic language expressed through clay, a language without words, yet rich in intention. Their forms, patterns, and stylistic evolution reveal a society experimenting, communicating, and refining ideas across thousands of years. To study Dogū is to witness the Jōmon imagination taking shape, sometimes human, sometimes animal, sometimes something in between. The first thing that captures attention when looking at a dog is its sheer variety. These figures do not follow a single model. Some have round, exaggerated bodies, others are slender, almost abstract. Some appear distinctly feminine, while others defy any recognizable gender. Many stand upright, with arms outstretched. Others are seated, crouched, or positioned in poses that suggest ritual movement. Each figure seems to embody a unique identity, as if no two were ever meant to be the same. Among the most iconic of these forms is the Shikoki dog, often referred to as the snow goggle figurine. With its large oval eyes that sweep across the face like goggles, narrow waist, and intricate chest and limb patterns, the Shikoki dog has become one of the most recognizable symbols of Jōmon art. The exaggerated eyes, one of the most puzzling features of Dogū in general, have inspired countless interpretations. Some scholars argue they may represent protective eyewear for shamans engaged in rituals involving light or fire. Others suggest they symbolize spiritual vision, the ability to see beyond the physical world. And some propose a simpler explanation. They may reflect artistic exaggeration meant to emphasize certain emotional or symbolic qualities. But the Shikoki dog is only one example. They're a heart-shaped dog with pointed chins and broad, flat heads resembling the shape of a heart. These figures often have smooth surfaces with minimal decoration, their simplicity contrasting sharply with the ornate designs of later styles. There are horned dog with protrusions that may represent hairstyles, headdresses, or supernatural attributes. There are figures with large hips and swollen bellies, often interpreted as symbols of fertility or pregnancy. And there are zoomorphic dog, figurines that blend human and animal traits, blurring the line between earthly beings and mythical creatures. The complexity of these designs reveals a sophisticated artistic vocabulary. The Jōmon were not merely sculpting clay, they were encoding meaning into texture, shape, and form. Many Dogū feature meticulous geometric patterns etched across their surfaces, spirals, lines, ridges, and punctures arranged in symmetrical and purposeful designs. These markings may have represented clothing, ceremonial attire, tattoos, or symbols of spiritual significance. Some patterns resemble woven textiles, suggesting that the Jōmon used the figurines to portray garments made from materials that have long since decayed. What makes the artistic evolution of Dogū even more remarkable is its timeline. Across thousands of years, the style and craftsmanship changed dramatically. Early Dogū, dating back to around 10,000 BCE, was small, simple, and abstract, often little more than rounded clay shapes with minimal detailing. By the Middle Jōmon period, around 3000 BCE, the figures became larger and more anatomically recognizable. Limb shapes became clearer, facial features more expressive, and surface decorations more elaborate. This artistic expansion mirrors broader cultural developments, growing social complexity, evolving rituals, and increased regional diversity. By the late Jōmon period, around 1000 BCE, Dogū reached their most elaborate and imaginative forms. The figurines became highly stylized, with carefully sculpted details that seemed to blur the line between realism and fantasy. The famous shakoki dog appears during this time, along with other groundbreaking designs that suggest a peak in symbolic experimentation. Some late Jōmon dog appear almost mechanical, with segmented limbs and patterns resembling armor plates. Others display exaggerated breasts or hips, placing strong emphasis on reproduction or feminine symbolism. Yet even with this dramatic evolution, one constant remains: the eyes. Large, wide, circular, or almond-shaped, dog eyes dominate the face in a way rarely seen in ancient art elsewhere. Across cultures, the human eye is symbolic, a representation of protection, awareness, or spiritual insight. The Jōmon may have believed that eyes held power, that seeing was a gateway to understanding or influencing the forces around them. In this sense, the dog may not have been simply figurines. They may have been vessels of vision, protective guardians, or symbolic observers placed in homes, graves, or ritual spaces. Another striking feature is the body proportions. Many dogs have extremely small or narrow waists, contrasted by large hips or thighs. This has led some researchers to view them as fertility icons, representing abundance, continuity, and the cycles of life. Others point out the presence of unusual distortions, limbs that seem intentionally broken, joints represented with unnatural angles, or torsos covered in patterns that might symbolize scarring or ritual modification. These artistic choices hint at deeper meanings, perhaps representing healing, transformation, or metaphysical states, rather than literal depictions of human anatomy. Some dogs appear to be wearing what modern viewers might interpret as masks or helmets, with facial features obscured or stylized in ways that suggest ceremonial roles. This idea aligns with theories that shamans, individuals believed to mediate between the physical and spiritual realms, played an essential role in Jōmon society. A dog with exaggerated eyes or elaborate headgear may have symbolized a shamanic figure engaged in ritual practices. The layers of clay building these forms may reflect layers of identity: human, spiritual, ancestral, or mythical. The sheer craftsmanship required to produce a dog is another critical aspect of its artistic significance. These figurines were not hastily molded. They were carefully constructed. Many show evidence of multiple firing stages, with the artist repeatedly refining the shape and details before completing the final form. Some figures were hollow, others solid, and still others built from multiple clay components fused together. The precision required to create intricate patterns without modern tools demonstrates a level of technical skill that challenges assumptions about prehistoric creativity. This diversity and complexity reveal a key insight. Dog figurines were not created for a single purpose or audience. They reflect regional traditions, evolving symbolism, and shifting cultural priorities across millennia. In some communities, Dogū may have been linked to fertility and childbirth. In others, they may have embodied protective spirits or ancestral figures, and in yet others, they may have been used in healing rituals or rites of passage. Their forms tell us that the Jōmon people saw the human body, and perhaps the spiritual world, in multifaceted, dynamic ways. As we transition to the next chapter of this documentary, we move from artistic expression to deeper speculation. The forms and symbols of the dog give us clues, but they do not speak plainly. They provoke questions rather than offer answers, and it is within these questions that the greatest mystery emerges. What were these figures for? Why did the Jōmon invest so much effort into shaping clay into beings that seem to exist halfway between the real and the extraordinary? In the next segment, we will explore the theories: religious, ritualistic, symbolic, and even unconventional, that attempt to explain the true function of the dog figurines and why so many of them were found intentionally broken. Despite centuries of study, the true purpose of dog figurines remains one of archaeology's most enduring enigmas. Scholars and enthusiasts alike have speculated endlessly, yet the figures continue to defy clear explanation. What is certain is that the Jōmon people invested extraordinary time and effort into creating them. They were meticulously sculpted, fired in clay kilns, and often adorned with intricate geometric designs, patterns, and symbolic markings. Many were found in fragments, as though intentionally broken, raising questions about whether destruction was part of their intended function. Every broken piece, every exaggeration of eyes or hips seems purposeful, a ritual statement waiting to be deciphered. One of the most widely accepted interpretations is that dog figurines served ritualistic or religious purposes, particularly in relation to fertility and health. Many of the figures display exaggerated feminine features: large abdomens, broad hips, and detailed breasts, which naturally leads researchers to consider them as fertility icons. In a society dependent on small-scale farming, hunting, and foraging, fertility of both humans and crops was essential for survival. By shaping and venerating these figures, the Jōmon may have sought to influence reproduction, ensure healthy childbirth, or promote abundance in their environment. Some even theorize that dog functioned as stand-ins for humans in ceremonial practices. In this scenario, placing a figurine in a ritual space, performing gestures over it, or even breaking it symbolically represented influencing real-world outcomes, protecting mothers, curing illness, or channeling divine favor. But fertility is only part of the story. Another compelling theory links dog to healing rituals. Archaeologists note that some figures have deliberate cracks or missing limbs. This has been interpreted as a symbolic act. By breaking a dog, the practitioner might transfer sickness, injury, or misfortune from a person into the clay figure, which could then be ritually discarded, burned, or buried. In this sense, the figurine becomes a vessel of transformation, bridging the human and spiritual realms. It represents both vulnerability and hope, an attempt to negotiate with the invisible forces that shaped the Jōmon world. Further deepening the mystery is the placement of the figurines within archaeological sites. Dog have been discovered both in domestic settings and in specialized ceremonial contexts. Some were buried in pits, while others were found in hearths or beneath post holes of dwellings. These placements hint at intentionality. These figures were not casually left behind or discarded. They occupied symbolic spaces within Jōmon society, suggesting that their function was integrated into daily life and spiritual practice. Their ubiquity and diversity imply that no single interpretation is sufficient. The meaning of a dog may have varied by region, era, and ritual context. Adding to the intrigue is the phenomenon of intentional breakage. Unlike accidental damage caused by centuries underground, many dog exhibit clean, deliberate fractures. Some are found with missing heads, others with separated limbs, often concentrated in ritual layers rather than in living spaces. This pattern points toward ritual killing or deactivation, a practice observed in other prehistoric cultures. Just as weapons, tools, or ceremonial objects were intentionally broken to mark the end of their usefulness or to release their spiritual energy, dogū may have been retired after performing their symbolic function. The act of destruction could itself have been as meaningful as the act of creation. Beyond the domestic and ritualistic theories, some researchers propose that dogū were symbolic intermediaries with the supernatural. With their exaggerated eyes, enigmatic postures, and sometimes hybrid human-animal features, the figures could represent spiritual beings or shamanic figures. Perhaps they were intended to observe, protect, or influence unseen forces. In this interpretation, the dogū are not merely icons or dolls. They are active participants in the spiritual landscape of Jōmon society, bridging human experience and the mysterious dimensions of life. Some modern interpretations venture even further, examining dogū through psychological or social lenses. Could these figures have functioned as tools for communal cohesion, as markers of identity or status? Were they perhaps educational, used to teach young members of society about spiritual beliefs, taboos, or the principles of healing and fertility? While these ideas are more speculative, they underscore an essential truth. The dogū are multidimensional artifacts. They resist singular explanations, instead reflecting a complex interplay of spirituality, society, and human creativity. Scientific study in recent decades has added another layer of understanding, though rarely one that resolves the core mystery. High-resolution imaging, X-ray analysis, and three-dimensional scanning have allowed researchers to examine the internal structures of dogū. Some figures are hollow, others solid. Some contain remnants of pigments or trace residues that hint at decoration or ceremonial handling. Yet even with these technological advances, the question of why remains unanswered. The evidence clarifies their construction, but leaves their meaning tantalizingly out of reach. Every new discovery prompts more questions than it answers. A particularly fascinating aspect is the regional variation in dogū forms. Figures from northern Hokkaido often differ dramatically from those in the Kanto or Kyushu regions, not just in size or decoration, but in stylistic expression and symbolic emphasis. This suggests that the rituals or beliefs associated with dogū were not uniform across Japan. Local customs, environmental conditions, and perhaps even differing spiritual cosmologies influenced the way these figures were created and used. What one community emphasized, fertility, healing, or protection, another may have approached differently, adding to the enduring enigma for modern scholars. Even with centuries of study, the absence of written records makes certainty impossible. Unlike cultures with codified religious texts, the Jōmon left no written explanations for their creations. Every hypothesis is an informed interpretation, constructed from fragments of clay, context within settlements, and comparisons with ritual practices in other ancient societies. This absence of textual evidence is precisely what makes dogū both frustrating and mesmerizing. They invite endless inquiry, bridging archaeology and imagination, fact and speculation, science and wonder. Ultimately, the function of dogū may be multi-layered. They might have served simultaneously as fertility icons, healing tools, spiritual intermediaries, and social symbols. The deliberate artistry, the widespread distribution, the ritualistic breakage, all point to objects deeply integrated into the cultural, spiritual, and daily lives of the Jōmon. They are artifacts of purpose, but the nature of that purpose was likely fluid, evolving with the needs, beliefs, and experiences of the people who crafted them over thousands of years. As we move forward in this documentary, we shift from speculation about function to the evidence revealed through discovery and modern research. The dog are no longer just objects of mystery. They are a lens into prehistoric Japanese life, revealing both the creativity and complexity of the Jōmon period. In the next segment, we will explore the remarkable discoveries of these figures, the cutting-edge technology that is allowing us to study them like never before, and the ongoing debates that keep these ancient clay forms at the forefront of archaeological inquiry. The story of Dogū figurines is not only a journey into ancient times, but also a tale of discovery that stretches into the present day. Over centuries, archaeologists have unearthed more than 15,000 dog, each piece contributing a fragment of the puzzle. These artifacts, found in settlements, burial sites, and ritual pits across Japan, have allowed researchers to begin reconstructing aspects of Jōmon life and belief systems. But while the sheer quantity is impressive, it is the quality and diversity of the figurines that truly captivates scholars and the public alike. Some are tiny, palm-sized tokens of artistry. Others stand over 30 centimeters tall, with intricately detailed features that rival modern sculptural work. Modern discoveries often begin in unexpected places. Construction sites, agricultural fields, and even riverbeds have yielded dogū, sometimes buried beneath layers of sediment for thousands of years. Each excavation is a delicate dance with time. Clay is fragile, and improper handling can destroy centuries of craftsmanship in moments. Yet through patient methodology, archaeologists have been able to recover and preserve these figures, allowing them to be studied, catalogued, and displayed. Museums across Japan now house some of the most famous examples, offering the public glimpses into a world that existed long before written records. Advances in technology have revolutionized the study of dogū. Traditional archaeological techniques, careful excavation, contextual analysis, and comparative study remain essential. But now, with three-dimensional scanning, researchers can examine each figurine with unprecedented precision. Every curve, indentation, and puncture mark can be measured, catalogued, and compared digitally. This has revealed details that were previously invisible, such as subtle patterns etched into the clay, faint traces of pigment, or micro-cracks that suggest intentional ritual breakage. High-resolution imaging also allows for virtual reconstructions, helping scholars visualize how a broken dog might have originally appeared. Beyond the physical study of the figures themselves, scientific analysis has provided insights into their production and use. Chemical testing of clay composition shows that Jōmon artisans often sourced materials locally, but sometimes selected specific clays for ceremonial figures, indicating a careful consideration of material properties. Traces of pigment and other residues suggest that many dog were painted or decorated, perhaps to convey symbolic meaning, status, or ritual function. This challenges the early assumption that they were plain or utilitarian objects, reinforcing the idea that they were culturally significant beyond their physical form. The sheer number of discoveries also raises questions about regional variation and cultural transmission. Dog from northern Japan differ stylistically from those in southern regions, suggesting that while the concept of figurines was widespread, the execution was shaped by local customs, environmental conditions, and aesthetic preferences. Some areas favored small, abstract designs, others produced elaborate life-sized figures with goggle-like eyes and complex ornamentation. This regional diversity hints at a cultural dialogue across centuries, with traditions evolving, spreading, and influencing neighboring communities. Modern researchers see this as evidence that Dogū were not merely decorative, but central to the social and spiritual fabric of the Jōmon period. Scientific debate continues over the interpretation of these figures. Scholars from archaeology, anthropology, and art history bring different perspectives, sometimes leading to contrasting conclusions. Some maintain that Dogū were fertility and healing icons, citing exaggerated body parts and ritual breakage. Others propose that they were shamanic tools, connecting human and spiritual realms. Still others consider them social or political symbols, representing community identity or status. The ongoing debate highlights the complexity of the Jōmon society and underscores the fact that Dogū cannot be reduced to a single function or meaning. Each figure may have had multiple roles, its significance varying by context, time, and creator. Recent high-profile discoveries have also reignited public interest. Exceptional examples, such as large shakoki dog with precisely carved limbs and goggle-like eyes, attract international attention, appearing in exhibitions from Tokyo to New York. These findings demonstrate the technical sophistication of Jōmon artisans and the aesthetic depth of their symbolic language. When displayed in museums, the figurines often evoke a powerful emotional response. Viewers are struck not only by their artistry, but by the sense of mystery they carry across millennia. The eyes of the dog, staring wide and unblinking, seem to peer directly into the human psyche, bridging the gap between ancient and modern worlds. Modern research also emphasizes the contextual importance of Dogū. Rather than being isolated art objects, they were part of the broader material and social culture of the Jōmon. Their placement in dwellings, pits, and ritual layers provides clues about their function and meaning. By mapping find locations and analyzing associated artifacts, tools, pottery, hearths, and food remains, archaeologists can reconstruct patterns of life, movement, and ritual practice. This contextual approach is essential to understanding Dogū not as static objects, but as dynamic elements in human experience, embedded within complex networks of belief, work, and daily life. Technological advances have also facilitated digital preservation and global study. Three-dimensional models allow researchers to share data worldwide, enabling collaboration without risking damage to the originals. Comparative studies can now examine figurines from different regions and periods side by side, revealing subtle differences in style, proportion, and decoration. Virtual reality simulations even allow students and enthusiasts to interact with life-size digital reconstructions, providing immersive experiences that deepen appreciation and understanding. These tools are not merely academic. They foster a cultural connection, allowing contemporary society to engage with Jōmon heritage in ways previous generations could not. Yet even with cutting-edge technology, Dogū continue to defy full understanding. Every new discovery prompts more questions. Why did certain communities favor elaborate goggle-eyed designs, while others created abstract, minimalistic figures? What specific rituals dictated their breakage or burial? How did beliefs about fertility, illness, and spiritual protection evolve over thousands of years? While scientific analysis can illuminate construction techniques, material composition, and artistic style, the cultural meaning, the invisible essence that drove their creation, remains elusive. It is precisely this tension between empirical study and enduring mystery that makes Dogū so compelling. Public fascination with Dogū also reflects a broader human desire to connect with the unknown. These figurines are more than archaeological curiosities. They are symbols of creativity, spirituality, and imagination. Modern artists, designers, and cultural commentators draw inspiration from Dogū, incorporating their forms into contemporary works, fashion, and digital media. This enduring legacy bridges ancient Japan and the present day, proving that the enigmatic power of these clay figures continues to resonate across time, geography, and culture. In the next segment of our documentary, we will examine the cultural and artistic legacy of Dogū today. From museum exhibitions and scholarly publications to their influence on popular culture and contemporary art, Dogū continue to captivate imagination and scholarship alike. Their story is not confined to the past. It lives on, inspiring curiosity, creativity, and reverence in the modern world. Even as the centuries pass, the Dogū figurines continue to exert a profound influence on Japanese culture and the global imagination. These small clay figures, once buried beneath soil and forgotten by time, now occupy a place of reverence in museums, research institutions, and popular culture. Their wide, enigmatic eyes and intricate designs captivate not only archaeologists but also artists, designers, and storytellers who see in them a bridge between the prehistoric and the contemporary. The Dogū are no longer just relics of the Jōmon period. They are enduring symbols of Japan's deep artistic and spiritual heritage. In museums across Japan, from the National Museum of Japanese History in Chiba to regional archaeological centers, Dogū are showcased as masterpieces of prehistoric artistry. Visitors are drawn to their unique forms, the exaggerated hips, the goggle-like eyes, the delicate geometric patterns that cover their surfaces. Museum curators emphasize not only the figure's age and technical sophistication, but also their role as cultural artifacts that reveal the daily lives, beliefs, and rituals of ancient peoples. Exhibitions often pair Dogū with other Jōmon artifacts, such as pottery and tools, providing a broader context for understanding the rich material culture of this enigmatic period. Dogū also appear prominently in Japanese popular culture, from anime and video games to literature and visual art. Their distinctive shapes and mysterious expressions have inspired creators to incorporate their imagery into fantastical worlds, often as symbols of mystery, magic, or spiritual power. This modern reimagining underscores the timeless appeal of Dogū. Their designs are simultaneously ancient and futuristic, familiar and alien, allowing them to resonate across different mediums and audiences. By appearing in contemporary art, Dogū continue to spark curiosity, invite interpretation, and connect audiences to Japan's prehistoric past. For contemporary artists and designers, Dogū provide a rich source of inspiration. The exaggerated forms, intricate surface patterns, and symbolic gestures offer endless possibilities for reinterpretation. Sculptors may echo their proportions in modern works, while fashion designers incorporate motifs reminiscent of Jōmon patterns into textiles. Even digital artists and animators draw on the otherworldly qualities of Dogū, translating their unique visual language into virtual spaces, films, and interactive media. Through these creative channels, Dogū remain alive in the modern imagination, evolving alongside new technologies while retaining their aura of mystery. Educational programs and scholarly research also play a vital role in preserving and disseminating knowledge about Dogū. Universities and archaeological institutes host workshops, lectures, and exhibitions that engage students, researchers, and the public. By combining hands-on learning with technological tools like 3D scanning and virtual modeling, educators provide immersive experiences that bring these ancient figures to life. Students can explore their shapes, understand their construction, and even interact with digital reconstructions, an engagement that transforms abstract history into a tangible, relatable experience. Beyond museums and classrooms, Dogū continue to serve as symbols of identity and heritage. They remind modern Japan of the depth and complexity of its prehistoric culture, long before written history and imperial chronicles. As one of the earliest forms of artistic expression in the region, Dogū exemplify the ingenuity, spirituality, and resilience of the Jōmon people. Their preservation and study are not merely academic pursuits, they are acts of cultural continuity, honoring the creativity and worldview of ancestors who shaped the foundations of Japanese society. The enduring fascination with Dogū also highlights a universal human impulse, the desire to connect with the past, to understand the unknown, and to find meaning in the artifacts of ancient peoples. Across thousands of years, these small clay figures have transcended time, bridging the prehistoric world with the present. Their gaze, often wide and unblinking, seems to reach across millennia, inviting contemplation, wonder, and even reverence. In their eyes, we glimpse a shared human curiosity, a quest to understand life, death, and the mysteries that lie beyond. In the final analysis, Dogū figurines are more than archaeological treasures. They are living symbols of cultural continuity, artistic ingenuity, and human imagination. They remind us that even in societies without writing, human beings expressed complex ideas, engaged with the spiritual world, and left behind artifacts that resonate far beyond their own time. From the forests and rivers of prehistoric Japan to the galleries, studios, and digital landscapes of today, Dogū endure, silently observing, inspiring, and connecting us to a distant past that remains as mysterious as it is compelling. As we conclude this journey, we are left with a profound appreciation for both the artistry and the mystery of Dogū. These clay figures, fragmented, stylized, and timeless, embody a culture that valued creativity, spirituality, and connection. They invite us to explore the delicate intersection between history and imagination, reminding us that some mysteries, far from being solved, are meant to inspire wonder for generations to come. In their silent presence, the past lives on, speaking across centuries in a language without words, but full of meaning.